Andy.
Hey, Larry.
How are you?
Very good. Great to see you.
Fancy seeing you here at Sebring.
I think I spent the better part of the month of February and March at Sebring almost every year.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about the GT3 Cup cars.
Yep.
How many are you guys running this weekend?
So this weekend we're running 7 cars.
7.
7.
That's a big portion of the field.
It's a chunk. It's a 41-car field this weekend.
And you've been running Porsche Cup cars for how many years now?
Since the beginning of Porsche Cup racing in the U.S. We're a 35-year-old company, but yeah, we've been there from the beginning.
So we've been lucky enough to work together for a couple of years.
Yep.
I've had a chance to shoot a couple of your cars. I've even had a chance to check out your facility.
Sure.
Which is incredible. And on top of that, what did we drive? The Dodge Viper Challenger with the Viper V10 swap?
Yep.
That does burnouts all day.
Wicked burnouts.
Yeah. So that's what you guys like to do for fun, but what you do for your day job is do customer racing with these Porsche Cup cars. So then, this is a brand new car?
Yes. Yep. Brand new 2024 car.
And so this is the first time you're running them?
Yep, tested here a handful of times in January and February, just getting some new drivers acclimated. We're also getting ourselves acclimated to a new tire this year, switching to the Yokohama tire. A little bit of learning for the team that we've run the Yokohama in the last several years in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Series, so good familiarity with the tire. It's our first race event of 2024.
So let's talk about this car. Let's kind of go over it.
Yep.
Because a lot of people may not know what this sort of thing is, right? A lot of people may not know that there are race cars that are from the factory that's of OEM quality, fit and finish, all of that. This is, so latest 2024, first time it's ever run in the US.
Correct.
First time it's ever raced. So what's like the main difference between this versus the previous generation?
So we've been running this car, this generation since 2021 is when it was introduced, the new 992. It'll run through the 2025 season before they introduce the .2 in 2026. Over the previous generation, really the front suspension is the biggest difference. It's a double wishbone front, which is a big difference from the traditional strut type system used in the previous models. Definitely a lot more front grip than the previous models. It's not new globally. They have this, in many other markets, starting in Europe and then expanding to other markets. It's not new to us this year, but they bring about 25 to 30 new cars into the U.S. market annually.
Oh, so they've been running this chassis in particular in Carrera Cup for how many years now?
Since 2021.
Oh, okay. So the main thing that changed this year is the tire.
Is the tire, yep.
But then this car in particular, is this a new car?
This is a brand new car.
When it comes from the factory, from Porsche, do you guys actually have to do anything to it at Kelly Moss to change anything to make it race ready?
We do our due diligence just to make sure. There's still a lot of human interaction in the assembly process. So we do our due diligence to make sure that everything is assembled properly. So we do some disassembly to inspect and reassemble and torque and paint mark and just kind of verify, because it's just in one make racing like this, where everything is spec, where everyone's running the same car, it's just the small little differences that separate the drivers and the teams.
What's the main difference between this vehicle and what's running in IMSA? It's GTD, right? In
GTD, yep.
Yeah.
So we also run in that class with 2 of the 6 cars that came into the North American market. The chassis are quite a bit different in overall construction. Basically from the front firewall forward, it's a completely different car. And on the rear quarters, where these are kind of a hybrid aluminum and steel body shell, on the GTD car, or the GT3R as Porsche calls them, there's a lot more carbon on them. So the fenders are carbon, the rear quarters are carbon, bumpers are carbon, diffuser, splitter, all of those things are carbon. We're really on this generation of Cup car, the doors and the engine lid are the only thing that are carbon. The rest of it are basically production street car parts.
So then, what's the difference in time on a track like Sebring between the R and then this
So
Cup car?
based on how IMSA has them, the GT3 cars running in GTD equalized between all the manufacturers, the lap times are actually quite close. Where you'll find in previous years where some of our pole sitters in Carrera Cup would have been like top 5 in GTD. The cars are incredibly fast. There's a lot of performance here.
Let's start with the engine. First of all, on the street car, you can't see the engine at all.
No.
Right? There's a panel that's covering all this.
There's panels and fans and all kinds of things for additional cooling.
And then on the race car, you can actually see the engine.
Yep, you can see it, and a lot of this stuff is fairly serviceable and comes off quite quickly, for us to service the engine. The engine itself it's a 4-liter flat 6 street car production-based engine, makes about 515 horsepower. No air conditioning, just very, very raw vehicle.
So is there anything different from this car versus the R that would make it less for endurance racing and more for sprint racing?
So the R actually runs a 4.2 liter, and it is more of a racing purpose-built engine in that car. Where the design around this was using the production street car-based engine.
There's quite a few similarities between this and the GT3 RS street car.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
So, what are some of the things that's similar? The body panels, the taillights, or?
Yeah, a lot of that's the same. How the wing mounts is quite a bit different between those. Obviously, on this, there's no active aero. It's all fixed aero based on the regulation. But yeah, that's kind of the large differences. There's a lot more carbon fiber on the street car versus this car. This car is about 2,900 pounds. I think by the time you add all the creature comforts, air conditioning, and all the stuff to the street car, I think the curb weight gets closer to like 3,500 or 3,600 pounds.
I'm surprised this doesn't have air conditioning. I thought that a lot of these race cars now come with air conditioning.
A lot of them do, but they've kind of embraced in the Cup format that they're not going to go to air conditioning.
So what's the longest amount of time that you race with this car?
Generally, the format they do, they're 40-minute sprint races. So on each weekend, usually a 30-minute practice, 40-minute practice, 30-minute qualify, and then 2 40-minute sprint races. Porsche, they have announced they are doing a couple of short endurance races with these cars towards the end of the year, which is going to be kind of cool.
Is that in North America? Or?
In North America. They're doing them at VIR, Road America, Sonoma, and then a longer, I believe a 6-hour endurance race at Circuit of the Americas in November.
That is really neat. So then there's no worldwide series for this that travels across the world, but there's certain regions that have their own series.
Correct. I mean, there's many different Carrera Cups. I think there's 6 Carrera Cups across the globe. There are a handful of series that will, like the Creventic series, the 24-hour series, they will allow the 992 Cup cars to run in there as their own class, but there isn't a big following like you would see like in the Carrera Cup classes.
It's interesting for me to hear you talk about this versus the street car and the fact that the street car has more carbon than this. And part of that is because I'm assuming you have to change body panels pretty often.
Yeah, most of it's is a part of cost control. With close racing, there is incidental contact that happens, so they try to make the cars, as repairable as possible, as economical as possible. Mm-hmm. And to that point, if everybody's driving the same thing, there's no performance advantage to.
This is just so cool to see how intricate all of this is.
Yep.
It's I do have to say the fit and finish of an OEM race car. So then you could buy it from Porsche, like you said, if you have a contract or if you run like a team like yours.
Yep.
How much do these go for, brand new?
They're about $335,000. Honestly, that's kind of the inexpensive part of the whole thing, because then you start outfitting it with all the driver accessories and driver cooling things, because they don't have air conditioning, so you got to figure out how to keep yourself cool and comfortable. Extra wheels, and then it's a 16-race format in Carrera Cups, 8 venues, 16 races. We're support race for Formula One at 3 of the North American rounds, Miami, Montreal, and Circuit of the Americas. So a lot of exposure, a lot of media, and it's really cool, running in front of such huge crowds.
It's interesting to me because it's like not that much more expensive than the GT3 RS, especially with dealer markup.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
In fact, maybe it's probably the same price now.
Yep.
But like you said, this is the cheapest part, getting the car.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so engine bay, can't see much there. Got the rain light here, exhaust, flat bottom. Mostly flat bottom?
It does have. It is mostly flat bottom. Does have a diffuser in the back. Does run catalytic converters, but then it's straight pipe exhaust after that.
It has cats.
It does.
For a race car.
Yep.
How many other race cars here at Sebring run cats?
I think you'd probably be surprised. There's more than you think. But all of the homologated Porsche cars run cats, mostly because it's based on a street car engine. You know, so it likes the back pressure. It likes the things that, you know, it's a fairly low compression engine as far, you know, to use 91 octane on the street. So that's kind of the reason behind the cats.
So then what fuel do you run in this series?
It's an IMSA spec fuel. It's 98 octane.
On these cars, a lot of the braking is done from the rear because of the weight balance.
Because of the weight placement, yep. All the dampers are non-adjustable. It's a Multimatic damper. Spec spring rates, spec dampers, spec sway bars. They're adjustable sway bars. Your alignment settings and your sway bars are really your only adjustments in this, which makes it, you know, kind of a really unique driver series. It's not as much about the car setup as it is in some of the other classes.
It's interesting because these are all, like you said, they're really fast cars, but it's still a spec series.
Yep.
I mean, you see how close the MX-5 Cup guys run.
Yep.
But realistically, they're pretty slow car compared to modern day standards.
Yeah, I mean, looking at MX-5 here, they're 20 to 22 seconds a lap slower than what these are. You know, so I mean, it's a pretty significant difference. Not discounting the racing in MX-5 because it's some really great racing.
Yeah.
But yeah, these cars are a lot of performance.
This is interesting to me because this is just a vent
Yep.
that goes to the tire.
Yep. It's a non-functional vent, and honestly, the reason it's there is because it's a street car chassis that's been modified with a roll cage.
Ah.
So that's the way it's.
So they have to keep that.
Yep.
Ah. Okay. So then, what are we looking at here in the back?
Yeah. So basically, you know, you've got your ECUs and PDMs and all the wiring. There's you know, some scrutineering things that are in there as far as the yellow light systems, and there's a spec camera system, spec V-Box, so you got forward and rear facing camera. It's a paddle shift system. You'll notice that the typical air compressor that's mounted inside the cockpit to shift it is missing because this is an electronic shift.
Oh, so it's using like solenoids or something?
Yep, it's got a Megaline makes an electric actuator that mounts right on the gearbox.
The inside here is just, this is where it really stands out in terms of like a shop-built race car versus an OEM race car. The cage fit and finish, the fact that all the rubber is still there.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Just how neatly laid out all the electronics and the fire system is.
Yep. So like we build all our wiring harnesses for all of the accessories. Those don't come from Porsche like that, but
okay.
we make it super tidy and easy to inspect and clean and not chafe and not fail. And
even like the foam,
yep,
how it's all molded,
yep,
perfectly.
Yep, and that's all homologated from the factory. So you have to run all that stuff. You can't take any of it out.
Like, look how cool this part is. Just for the rear view, that has a OEM part number. That is so neat. So then there's even an escape hatch on this car, huh?
Yep, correct.
And that's in case of an unfortunate incident where the driver's trapped and he can't get out the door.
That's exactly that. And then they make it so that they can take the driver and the seat completely out through the escape hatch should an unfortunate situation like that occur.
With the seat?
With the seat.
How is that even possible? It's so small.
It'll fit.
Huh. Amazing. Okay. And then so it does have air vents.
Yep. The air vent comes off the hood, and then it's got a couple speed blower where either it'll blow on your face or blow on the windscreen.
This door is neat too. Like, look how the fit and finish is just so good. Just enough room for the cage. It doesn't touch or anything.
Yep.
It's just so clean.
Yep. I don't know if you've ever seen, like at some of the Formula One tracks, when they have cars that are disabled or crashed, they have the big hooks that go in through here.
Yep.
On both sides, so that they can use the crane, pick the car straight up and move it over the barrier, set it back down.
That's what this is?
Yep. Because a lot of the street circuits make it really difficult.
So that ties into the roll cage?
Yep.
So then this is open.
Yep, that's open for ventilation. Cockpit temps get fairly high. There's no insulation or anything. With the placement of where the engine is, it's kind of a heat sink.
The dashboard is so neat, all carbon. The steering wheel is so cool too. I love that. So then, racetrack.
Yep,
so
we put a track map on there. Hopefully they don't need that while they're driving.
Just for reference, or
when they come into the pits for a debrief, when we start talking about what they need from the car in order to create more speed, it's nice for them to have a visual reference just to say, all right, well, if we make it better here, it's going to make me better here.
Have you driven this car or any of the 992s?
I've driven it basically in the paddock from like here to Tech, but I've never driven it on track.
You're not curious? You're never curious?
I don't think I'm responsible enough.
Yeah, I've seen you drive before. I think you would have too much fun in this thing.
Yeah, you know me. Like everything, it's wide open throttle all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not how you make these go fast with wide open throttle all the time.
Right. It's just what an office though, huh?
Yeah.
This is so cool. So what is that red lever for? Moving it forward?
Just the seat forward and backward.
Oh, okay. Yep. I'm surprised that even moves. I'm surprised it's not just set for the driver. So then, this still has a clutch.
Yep.
And is that just to get going?
Yep.
Or?
That's the only time you use it. Is when you're getting going. Then after that, it doesn't use anymore.
The street car doesn't have that.
No. Yeah, because the street car is it's a PDK transmission. These are not. This is a true sequential transmission with a clutch.
Ah. Do they ever do launches?
In other markets, so there's launch control built into the car. In the other car cut markets, they actually do standing starts. It doesn't work super well in our market because they limit the entries to like 28 or 30 in other markets, where here we have 40 plus. And a lot of the tracks we go to don't have straightaways long enough that the cars in the back can see the starting stand lights.
Got it.
So we do rolling starts here.
And what's the most amount of drivers that you've seen on the track here in the U.S. with these?
This is actually a record entry at 41 this weekend.
That's a lot of cars.
It's a lot of cars.
I mean, if you think about it, like you look at F1 and going into turn one with 24 cars.
Right.
41 cars.
And they all want to get to turn one first.
Yeah. That is something else. Huh.
But they had almost as many cars last year. If memory serves, I think both of the races we did here under green and didn't have any contact or issues. But these guys are pretty professional.
Let's take a look at the front here.
Yep.
So then front suspension, front brakes, same thing like you're saying, non-adjustable.
Non-adjustable.
But you can adjust the height.
Yep, the height is adjustable. Caster you cannot adjust. Camber and toe you can adjust. Ride height you can adjust. You cannot change spring rates. You cannot change dampers.
Can you change brake pads?
As long as you put the same manufacturer part number brake pad back in there.
Oh, like this is an OEM part?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep, that's a pad from Pagid. And then the rotor and caliper are from Brembo.
So then that really means that what separates like number one qualifier versus last place or even just a couple spots down, they're separated by just not that much.
It's so close. I think the top 5 for the start of the race today are separated by like a tenth and a half. I mean, it's super close.
And you guys have a pole on one of your cars.
Yeah. Luke Hartog in the Pro class has pole. Chris Palomo in the Masters class has pole. And Alan Metney in the Pro-Am class has pole today. All 3 Kelly Moss cars.
So what are we looking at the front here? This is the fuel
Yep, that's the fuel cell. About 100-liter capacity. We don't need to run that much for sprint racing, but that's just the capacity that it is.
And it does have a windshield wiper because you guys do run in the rain.
We do run in the rain. Yep. It doesn't have defrost, which is a little tricky, because obviously when you're dealing with the different ambient temps and how cool rain can get, sometimes that's tricky as warm as it gets in the cockpit. So that's a lot of management on that side to get enough airflow and enough product on the inside of the windscreen so it's not fogging up.
Have you tested, because that means you have to run Yokohama wets.
Yes.
Have you tested that yet?
We have, yep. And you got to get lucky because you can't just plan for it to rain.
Yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, twin master cylinder with adjustable brake bias, so that's another one of the things that's tunable. It does have Bosch Motorsports ABS, so you've got multiple ABS settings that the driver can work through, which includes a rain setting.
And does this have traction control then too?
It does not.
Oh.
They are programmed and they're capable of traction control. There's a token that you have to unlock in the dash in order to enable it. The Porsche Sprint Challenge series, which is the kind of the training ground series for Carrera Cup, they do allow traction control since it's a little bit more entry level. But once you get to Carrera Cup, then no traction control.
No more traction control.
Nope.
But there is ABS.
Yep.
Huh. This is neat because it's good to know that you don't just find this on like drift cars. You know, like
you find rags and zip ties.
Yeah. It's just like if
Yep.
the fluid boils, right? It needs to go somewhere.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
It's really interesting just to see like the little differences versus the street car. Like I'm assuming that this probably doesn't tie in on the street car.
Correct, it does not. No,
Okay.
this portion here actually ties into the roll cage.
Ah, okay. I just love how like all of this stuff here. It's
Yep.
interesting to me that there's a lot more luggage room here than the GT3 RS. Right? Well, because there's none.
Exactly. It doesn't have any of the padding or insulation.
Right.
But yeah, that's how big the 3RS normally is. But
Yeah.
so like this duct here, which goes in through there, that's the duct you're pointing to the inside of the car that blows on the driver.
Oh.
So that's the fresh air inlet to the driver.
Oh, okay.
So-
And then this does have air jacks.
Yep, does have air jacks.
So it's just 3?
3 points. Yep. Yeah, with the weight placement of where it is on the Porsche, it really only needs the 3 air jacks.
And then so this is it just is
the
it
s-
3
the- yep.
heat exchangers?
Yep, 3 heat exchangers, and this is just the exit duct for the center one, which then also comes up out of the hood.
So then this is also interesting because this race is like a night race for you guys.
Yeah, our Friday night race is at night, which is not normal. I think the last time we did that was like 2017. I think we did at Coda.
Is it going from sunset to night or like dusk to night?
Basically dusk to night. I think the race starts at like 7:15 and goes to 7:55.
And then they don't even get to practice at night to see.
Last week was the official test here, and so anyone that attended the official test had an opportunity to run a night session to give you the same kind of visual understanding of what they're going to see. It's not an easy place to race at night. I mean, we're going to use the same lighting that they do in the 12-hour, and that's not much, but it'll be interesting to see how a 40-minute race pans out.
Yeah, and then the guys that are running the 12-hour race, their lighting is way better, I feel like.
Yes.
On
Yes.
all those race cars.
Yes.
I mean, because
They focus on lighting for apex curbs and all those things, and these are lights that are made for street cars.
yeah, these are pretty. I mean, these are probably just the
They're
street
super.
lights.
They are.
Oh.
They're super bright.
Okay.
They're super bright, but they don't have any focus on apex curbs.
So then, in terms of width, is it the same as the street car, or is it wider in the front?
It's a little bit wider in the front, which is part of the flare that they use on it. A little bit wider offset wheel.
Sorry for being so nerdy on all this stuff.
Hey, I like talking technical stuff.
Yeah, well, see, I'm just trying to educate the people that don't know.
So these are the reins.
Okay, so these are the reins.
We have one compound we're allowed to run. There's no intermediates. So you're either running the Spec dry tire or the Spec wet.
And are these Spec wheels too?
Yes. Yep. That's a front. That's how wide it is.
Whoa. That is really wide. So then is the rear is wider then?
Yep.
Is it the same diameter though?
The wheel's the same diameter. It's a different width.
Oh, it's way taller.
Yeah, and the height is, it's the same wheel diameter, but the tire size.
What's the size?
It's a 300, 650, 18 is the front.
300, 650, 18.
Yep.
Interesting.
And a 320, 710, 18 is the rear.
So it's even wider
Yeah. It's taller and wider.
on the wets. Like, what is the life cycle like for this? Does it last one race, or how does this work?
Life cycle is circuit dependent, usually somewhere between 100 and 200 miles of total usage. Pretty rare to get to the 200 mile side. It's usually more the 100 mile side.
So you can do more than one race with a set of tires?
Generally speaking, we'll run 2 sets of tires in qualifying. You have to set a time for race 1 and race 2, and you're only qualifying. We'll start one of the races on our qualifying tires that will have about 5 or 6 laps on them, and then they'll do one race, and then we'll usually use them again for a short practice session, kind of going to a new venue.
Are you limited on how many tires you can run per weekend?
Yeah, the opening weekend we can run 5 sets because we have no carryover tires, and what that means is when we go into race 2 at Miami, we have to bring 2 sets of Yokohamas that we previously used here at Sebring. That's what we can use in free practice, and then we're only allowed to buy 3 new sets per weekend. So. And
then you can't keep the tires, right? You can't keep the carcasses. You have to return them.
They allow us to keep them if we want to, but generally speaking, having as many cars as we do, we try to give back as many tires as we can.
So then you even write how many laps each tire has on it, huh?
Yeah. So we serial number each tire and each wheel, so we know when they go into service. Because 6 laps at Lime Rock is not the same as 6 laps at Road America. There's a big mileage difference. So we mark the laps based on the serial number. We know where they went into service, how many laps and miles are on them, and where they were discarded. Just try to track all of it so we understand what we have.
That's so cool. I'm assuming because you guys changed tires, you had to do a lot more, or you had to do testing, I don't know, to see the difference or tunability or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've run, Yokohama's not new to Porsche Cup racing, and we've run Yokohamas for years. There was a manufacturer change for a couple years starting in 21 until this season in Carrera Cup, but we've still been running the Yokohamas in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Series, so we're used to running these tires and this compound on these cars. So we had a fair amount of data going into the season, which is good, but we were fortunate enough, we were asked to help Yokohama and Porsche conduct a test on the Yokohama tire at the end of last season to make sure that the tire specification was capable of handling running with a lot of these young drivers that are putting a lot of stress and a lot of load on these tires. So they did a lot of due diligence to make sure that the tire was going to be safe and reliable and give good quality feedback, because it's a driver development series. Yeah, it's a really good product.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you as always.
See you around this weekend.
Yes, great to see you.